Yo, what's up, Tundra? Welcome back to the Snowy Bevilex 2025 Mega Mod Guide for Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Today we are going to be jumping into the last bit of our guide. We left off in the last episode finishing most of the texture replacers, and now we're working on interface and other optimizations along with adding an EMB to our game. There's been a couple changes I had to show and explain at the start of today's episode. Last episode was a bit of a fluke because there was nothing really new from the previous episode. This one, there's some major stuff. So right off the bat, I wanted to explain that I ran into some issues with the barrels mod. If you guys were watching the end of the last episode, you would have seen a little bit of testing that I did. I ran into some barrel meshes that were glitching in and out like crazy. So I found a fix, and a big shout outs to this person named Rugdush, who found a solution using a program called NifSkope. So NifSkope is technically a tool that edits the net immersive file format NIF, used by video games such as Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout, New Vegas, Civ 4, etc. So there are a couple games and uses for this. The program link I've provided for you guys now in the Snowy Bevilex 2025 zip. You'll be able to get to the GitHub release for this if you would like to do the edit that I did. I'll go ahead and put a non-edited version of the fix on the screen. You have to follow it pretty much exactly in order to get your barrels to work. Now, that's only if you're running the cat barrels. In the installation here for diverse textures replacers, this barrels link. Now, truth is, you could just uninstall this and your barrels will be fixed. They will use the unofficial Oblivion patch version of the barrels and the meshes, so you'll be totally fine. But if you want to fix it and use the cat version, or if you run into other cluttering issues, such as vineyard tools, the blacksmith stuff that cat has released, as well as maybe some issues with the upper or lower class clutters, stools, things like that, the fix for the mesh should be the same using NifSkope. Additionally, I looked into some NAO information and decided that we would probably install the brighter patch once again. I will go ahead and show you guys a before and an after of me testing and showing the installation of the brighter patch fix. Alright, that was the NAO nighttime with our Aurora in motion skyscape that you saw. Now, again, if you want, you can install this. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I still have it in here. I actually need to delete it. I was running some tests to make sure that it worked in the load order I had it. But you're going to go to Weather and Immersion, NAO, the optional Brighter Nights patch. Download that. We're going to drag it in and put it directly underneath in the installers of the NAO. And I missed it. Right here. You're going to right click, you're going to click install, and if you are going to be testing to see if you like it, make sure you activate that rerun boss. And I believe for NAO Brighter Nights, boss shows it as an unrecognized plugin. So you're going to have to run the boss GUI, and that will be in my games folder for me, right next to Steam. So run boss GUI, edit user rules, and you can see I've already thrown it in here, but you're going to type in NAO-brighter-nights.esp. You're going to click sort item, and you're going to want to sort it before NAO.esp. You're going to click create new rule, and you're going to click save and exit. The reason we want this running before is technically it'll be from the bottom up in the plugins within Rybash, so it will run after in the top down. So after you add that rule, this NAO Brighter Nights.esp rule, click save and exit. Mine was already added in. You're going to run boss again like this. And that should, when you click back on Rybash, automatically move that above the patch or leave it right underneath the NAO. You can then close the boss GUI, and you can rebuild your bash patch if you are going to be testing it. The bash patch for this one will actually combine the NAO Brighter Nights. As you can see, it's now been unchecked. And I'll go ahead and show you guys what it also looks like with a brief gameplay showcase. Alright, well that's up to you guys on whether or not you want to install the NAO Brighter Nights ESP, but that is the showcase for that. I'm going to leave it enabled. I realized that it's just as immersive. In fact, without it, it actually is almost too dark, where it almost looks like a new moon, even with the moon out. I did go ahead and try to fix some flickering with the Aurora in motion update. The mod doesn't function perfectly. The colors will flicker in and out sometimes, and it's especially noticeable when we get to the ENB section, which we can always uninstall this later, but I'm going to leave it installed. I find it beautiful when it does work, and it doesn't, break the game too much for me with a little bit of flickering sometimes with a few of the textures. If you're running depth of field later on, it'll be even less noticeable when you're not staring at the sky. Editing Snowy is back. While we're at the fixes part of this episode, I have decided to implement this one before you guys get into installing new things. This one was super annoying. during the Let's Play, and I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to fix this without manually editing, like with NifSkope, everything, until I stumbled on a comment on Nexus on the forums. Someone made a mod, an add-on that fixed all of our problems. And so you're going to need this VGR reasonable patch for the Vanilla Gear Redux. This was during the bodies and armors portion where we installed this right here under Vanilla Gear Redux from Bevilex. But here's the patch. You're going to want to make sure you get this. It is important, as I've already tested it. It did fix all of the issues that I had been experiencing, and I'm actually annoyed that I didn't know about this beforehand. So let's go ahead and get that installed. Make sure you download it. I went ahead and just put it into the 14-2 spot for you guys. Patch for Vanilla Gear Redux, so it might be a little bit confusing. Click on it. We'll grab the reasonable patch, and you're going to just drag and drop it in. You're going to click from the bottom on it where it's red. Drag it up to this spot. Right underneath VGR SR OCOV2. So it'll be 2 down from Vanilla Gear Redux. Reasonable flavor. Final. You're going to select core patch only, the 00 core patch. Make sure that it has the Shivering Isles Female Armor Display ESP and Vanilla Gear Redux ESP. When you select this, right click and click install. You're going to notice your Vanilla Gear Redux turn orange. Now this is okay. I believe it's because the ESPs are the same. And now we can get back to the guide video. Okay, so in the last episode, we made it all the way through from weather and immersion, body armors and weapons, creatures and animals, diverse retextures and replacers, all the way down to interface. So today we're going to be beginning with interface if you want to follow along. So navigate to your root folder and open up that interface tab. The first thing you're going to see is Darnified UI. This is by far my favorite UI. There's also a Northern UI option. You can check out the Bevilex thing. I really like the Darnified version. One thing that's nice, I think, about the Northern one is you can get a UI like hotkey change for the hotkey system, which is pretty cool. But I still prefer the Darnified UI. Okay, so I've been running some tests and kept running into some crashes with this Darnified UI. I have installed it before, so I was confused as to what I was doing wrong. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys exactly how I did it. If you don't follow this exactly, I have no idea how to help you on it. So what I'm going to do is grab the Darnbane Wizard. We're going to drag it into our Rybash. You're going to see it's a wizard. So it's a wizard. So we're going to do right click, advanced installation, wizard installer, manual wizard. So I clicked next on the welcome screen. For all our custom, I went ahead and just clicked all. So next. And then I chose colored local map, as this reminds me of Morrowind. I clicked next, default for the font next, and then it's gonna have an any tweak for Oblivion. Future Snowy here to remind you to always back up your Oblivion any. Let's go ahead and do that right now, just in case. The whole reason that Snowy is even able to show you guys this Darnified UI installation is because he backed up his Oblivion any. Always do that before you make any changes. So what you're going to do is go to your local disk C, go to your users, my account name, Sam is Snow, or we're on Snowy Sam. Go to My Games, Oblivion, find your Oblivion any. You're going to copy that with Control C, and I have a folder I made next to Steam and next to Boss, NifSkope, all the things you've seen us use in the guide, and I made one called Oblivion Backups. I know that's just for Oblivion. So I have a pre-UI Oblivion that I made before I even installed that I didn't explain in the installation video. So I'm going to do Control V, and that is now post UI Oblivion. I will probably call this pre-ENB when we get to that guide. Actually, let's do that right now. I'll rename it. We'll make another one called pre-ENB. But I always like to back up my innies. The pop-ups that say that, it's really important to take it seriously, as it caused me to have crashes probably for about 30 to 40 minutes after that or before that installation. So anyway, thank you guys for backing up your Oblivion innies, and back to the Darnified installation. So click apply these selections, click finish, and it's going to say apply an any tweak to Oblivion any. Make sure you trust the tweak, as incorrect tweaks can cause crashes. Please click cancel here. Blooper at the end of the video if you stay that long. And then I have this text file. This is provided by Bevilex on the list, saying you will need to edit your Oblivion any to apply the new fonts. Paste these lines under fonts. So you can grab it directly from the site here, like this, and just Control C, or pick it up from the text file that I've given you guys. So we got to paste these lines in the Oblivion any. You can double click that to open it. You're going to do Control F, type in font, and you can see exactly where the fonts. You're going to be looking for this here, where the header is fonts. And you're going to take that and override what is currently there. Control V. You're going to see we now have these darn fonts. Control S. And I'm going to show you with my Oblivion that it does not crash and that these fonts work. Now we're finally going to set up our in-game any video settings through the Oblivion game itself. So we're going to launch Oblivion. We're going to go to Options. Video. These are Bevilex's personal settings. Tree fade 100. Actor fade 76. Item fade 60. Object fade to 60. Grass distance 100. View distance 100. Distant land on. Distant buildings on. Distant trees on. Interior exterior shadows both 5. Self shadows off. Shadows on grass off. Tree canopy shadows on. Shadow filtering on high. Specular distance is set to 50%. HDR lighting on. Bloom lighting off. Water detail high. Water reflections on. Water ripples off. Water reflections or window reflections on. Blood decals high and anti-aliasing off. And these are the settings taken directly from Bevilex. You can see them here. Let's actually make a new save. Before we leave, make a new character, test, and here's the reason. Open your console and type in save any, enter. This will ensure all the changes we just made remain. I'm going to lock our NE file, and we're also going to quickly update it. So to get to it, navigate to your C drive, your user folders, users, for me, OneDrive, documents, my games, Oblivion. Now, this is the current state of our Oblivion NE. I'm going to quickly make a copy of it, and I'm going to back it up. All this. This is still post UI Oblivion, so this is what I was going to do. I'm going to delete this. We're going to make another one. Post UI Oblivion NE. So that way, if we mess anything up, then we can always come back and grab this and re-replace it. So We're gonna go ahead and edit all these settings. So edit the following if you want your game to look like mine. Okay, so the first thing you want to search for is going to be F-Light LOD. We're going to change LOD 2, F-Light LOD 2 to 6000. And we're going to change F-LOD 1 to 4000. Then we're going to navigate to the water section. Type in use water and hit enter. And it takes you to the use water reflection misc. Ensure that is 0. We use water reflections statics 0. Use water reflections trees. Change that from 0 to 1. Use water reflections on actors, leave it 0. And use water reflections leave at 1. Leave as 1. There's another any change we're going to make. It's going to be local. Map shader. You can type that in and press enter. Change this to 0 and press Control S or press save. This will make your local map colorful. And now that we're done editing our any, I'm going to recommend you guys do the same thing as I'm about to do, and it's to lock this from any external edits. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to right click it, you're going to go properties. And you're going to want to type or click read only, press apply, hit OK. Now nothing except for you can change this, and that's why it's good to lock your Oblivion any. And now your any should match Bevilex's and mine. Okay, next is going to be the quest log manager. For the quest log manager, you're only going to need the core 00, which has the quest log manager ESP, and we're going to need the Darnified UI 01. Now, if you chose not to use the Darnified base, there's the dark version of it. There's also for vanilla here as well. Then you're going to right click, install. Only select the core Darnified UI and make sure the plugin for Quest Log Manager is there. Next is the VK7 Oblivion Cyrodiil map. I strongly recommend this one. It is amazing. Just wait until you see this. Then we have the Elven map for Shivering Isles, which unfortunately for Shivering Isles we didn't have too many options to pick from, but this definitely looks nice. Then we have custom spell icons. There are two folders here. We have the custom spell icons v3, which has an ESM. Install that, as well as a DLL file. Click yes. And then we have the custom spell icons update. And then if you are going to be playing as female archetype for this game, I highly recommend getting the women class portraits, as this will convert the class portraits when you're creating your character to very vanilla friendly, amazing designs for your inventory. It's in the when Boris speaks to you about your class choice where you're going to see these. It does override the men or the male archetype if you're going to end up playing as such. So this is totally optional. For our Let's Play, I'm role playing as a character named Nalik from the Somerset Isles, and he will be better represented with the default class portraits. I have used this before when role playing as his wife, Allie. Okay, next is going to be Pick Me, and this is going to be a Bane installer. So we're going to be seeing some sub packages underneath it. Okay, so for these sub packages, I went with Core, Tumbler's Iron, Wood Slab, and Darn UI. Since we are using the UI interface, you want to make sure you select the chosen UI, and then you're going to do right click, install. And I'm going to quickly test this. Okay, everything is currently working just fine. Next is going to be loot menu, which is a must-have. We're going to drag and drop this, make sure the ESP is active, install, and it has an OBSE DLL, so hit yes. Next, you're going to go and get the smaller font. This is to make it compatible with the Darnified UI we're using. And I'm going to quickly double check that that still works. So I'll be right back. Okay, that is also functioning. Next is going to be the map marker overhaul. And this is a wizard installer. We're going to right click, click Advanced Installation, Wizard Installer, Manual Wizard. We're going to click Next. I'm going to go with the colored map icons. Default settings. With the SI additions and the 2 ESPs that we're adding in, make sure you click Apply these selections, click Finish. Okay, next is the custom class description, which I love. Make sure you get the ESP installed with that plugin. And so when we get to the 11th one here, you have 2 choices. There's the skill diary redone, which I highly recommend if you are planning on doing a vanilla playthrough, vanilla leveling. It's just assisting you in knowing where your queue is, what kinds of attribute points are going to be allocated to what, depending on how many levels deep your diary looks into. Or you're going to go with 14 attributes easy, which I'm using for our Let's Play to allow us to roleplay a little more easily and not have to min-max my character, which I typically do when I'm not streaming this game. So I'm going to be going with number 14. Next for me is going to be Link. Make sure you get the ESP, install. And then we have a camera. If you're going to be using ENB with Oblivion Reloaded, you can use this camera. Apparently it is okay to work with Oblivion Reloaded E3 is, I believe, what I'm going to be using. So we can see if this gives us a crash when we install it later. But for now, we're going to skip adding this into our list and move on to the next thing. I went ahead and made it to where basically the version for ENB will be installed when we do ENB. And if you are doing no ENB for the standalone, it is now as an optional camera, no ENB standalone. This is where you could install it if you want to play with the enhanced camera. It is there. Now I'm going to be getting the attributes easy. Right click install. It's going to also give you an ESP. And then there's an optional sound overhaul. Now I've heard that this is bad with weather mods, but I've chosen to try out using Gosh this time to see if it maybe breaks anything. I might do a little bit of playing around. I believe it only messes with regional ambience if you are using something like all natural for weathers. We're using the NAO, which is like atmospheric. Okay, so before doing our settings, I've decided to actually reinstall Gosh with the Gosh region ambience, as that was one of the coolest changes to the game I've ever heard since I've been playing this game, like for a good chunk of my life. So I'm going to go ahead and double check both of these and do a little bit more testing, as that was legendary. As I forgot, we got the Shivering Isles female armor displays ESP added in when we added in the Vanilla Gear Redux Reasonable patch. So we're just going to put that directly behind the Vanilla Gear Redux using our boss GUI. So let's load that up. Mine is located next to my Steam folder. We're going to click Edit User Rules. And this is going to be for Shivering space Isles space female space armor space displays .esp. And we want this to sort before, when looking from the bottom up in our plugins list, before Vanilla Gear space Redux ESP. Click Create New Rule. And that looks good. We're going to save and exit. We're going to run boss. Oh, also Link needs to be updated. I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so it's only coming back with one unrecognized plugin, and that is going to be link.esp. And with link ESP, all you need to do, yes, the other one sorted perfectly, just move it above the bash patch. This can be loaded last until the very end. When you're done installing, you can have link ESP run wherever pretty much in your build, but supposedly according to the forums. But I just put it right above the bash patch. And now I'm going to rebuild this. And that should conclude the interface section. What I'm going to go ahead and do is make a few edits here in the video with all of my settings for loot menu and for my map marker overhaul. There needs to be some custom changes, as well as my Darnified UI in the game. And I'm going to show you guys quick cuts to each of those, starting with Darnified. Alright, to edit your Darnified UI, you're going to have to navigate to your Oblivion data folder. Within that, you're going to go into Menus, Prefabs, Darn, then navigate to the HUD main menu config.xml. You're going to want to edit this with at least Notepad to be able to get into this. Going to change the HUD scale to 80. The sneak eye needs to be X of 828. Sneak Y minus 461. Status all X change to 180 and minus 18. Weapon X change to 30. Magic icon you're going to want to set to 105 for the magic icon X. Make sure you click Control S or File and save that before you're done. Otherwise, nothing will save. Also, you cannot save these in-game. You have got to do it via the HUD main menu _config.xml. And this is for borderless windowed on a 1080p monitor that I've looked to set these at, if you are wondering. Now let's get to editing the distance for our new map marker mod. Okay, next we're going to configure our map marker overhaul. And you can set a lot of these values to whatever you prefer, but I'm just going to show you guys what I'm setting them to. So navigate to your Oblivion data folder, go to the ini folder, and you're going to find map marker overhaul ini. Open that up, and then you're going to type in visible in your compass. And the first one you should find, there's going to be a few, but you're going to want to get down to the point where you're going to set minimum distance for map markers to become visible on your compass to be 0 if you want it to be controlled outside of the map marker overhaul. The default in the game, I believe, is 12,000, or at least it is with the Darnified UI. I'm going to set it to 0 in hopes that the default setting comes back. Okay, after changing your visible distance here to 0 for default, it does work. I just tested it. The default they give is 2,500. Just put that to 0. It'll read the 12,000 as a base, which you can put 12,000 here if it is still not revealing as you walk up to them. Next, I'm going to at least double this value here to 5,000 for minimum distance for map markers to become added to your map. 0 means that map markers aren't added until they're fully revealed. Default's 2,500. This seemed extremely low, and I had to walk about 3 steps to fully reveal the marker, so I'm going to double this distance. Okay, 5,000 felt a little bit high. I'm going to go ahead and set this to 4,000 for map markers to become added to our map, but not actually revealed to us. Control S or save for the map markers. Okay, so you guys can see the loop menu. It's kind of like a mini inventory system where you can press E to grab or R to open the container. So to change these settings, you're going to hit Escape, Options, Mods, and we are going to go down to Loop menu, as this is configurable. Classic style for the style, and I'm also going to hide the label icons. We're going to change label text to show. I'm going to change the minimum stack size to 2. This will be allowing us to grab more than 1 item at a time. Actually, we'll set this, we'll leave it at 2. If I don't like that, I'll change it back to 3 later on. Return, return, return. We should see take and open. This is how I like mine to be seen. Again, you can change this to whatever you want it to be. Far future editor Snowy here to tell you guys to go ahead and uninstall and reinstall the improved moons textures that we installed previously underneath Gosh. So you're going to want to do improved moons and the moon shadow. I have now marked it not as optional, but actually as the install for the moon shadow. I went ahead and tested these and found that they worked when I installed them last, as there were some overridden textures, something going on maybe with lighting, but they work when they are installed at the very end. So find them. They are going to be underneath the Aurora in Motion, high quality snowflakes, smoke and dust if you are using those. Find them up here, right click them, uninstall, on both, I went ahead and deleted since I'm copying the mods over. I clicked delete for a nice clean uninstall. And I did that with the Improved Moons mod. And then I went ahead and re-dragged it into my Rybash, right-clicked install Improved Moons, and then I did that as well with the Moon Shadow in the second folder here. And I went ahead and installed that. Thanks, guys. And that will conclude episode 5. Now that you have configured all interface mods, we can now move on to the optional ENB and Oblivion Reloaded, if you so choose to. Otherwise, this will be the final lineup of mods for the slightly altered Bevilex list. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys for episode 6 for an optional ENB Oblivion Reloaded configuration episode. Stay frosty. Make sure you trust the tweak, as incorrect tweaks can cause crashes. I clicked OK. Grass fade is like... My innie got screwed. What? Yeah, that's weird, dude.